The village of Dharai lay hidden beyond thick forests, untouched by modern life, wrapped in an eerie silence that even the wind seemed scared to disturb. Travelers rarely passed through, and the few who did reported strange things. Whispers that followed them in the dark, footsteps that echoed behind them on empty paths, and shadows that moved even when no one was there. For decades, the villagers lived quietly, avoiding the forest after sunset and warning visitors never to wander alone. But it wasn't until Aidan, a 26-year-old documentary filmmaker, arrived that the truth began to unravel in all its horrifying depth. Aidan was drawn to Dharai by stories from an old book he found in a second-hand shop. The book mentioned a mysterious white widow, a ghost said to haunt the village and its surrounding woods. Most dismissed the tale as rural folklore, but Aidan felt something deeper, a thread he needed to pull. His passion was investigating unexplained myths, and Dharai's legend was perfect for his next project. He packed his camera gear, left for the remote region, and reached the village just before dusk when the sky was turning darker shades of orange and purple. Immediately, he sensed something was wrong. The streets were empty, doors were tightly shut, and small lanterns glowed from inside houses as if villagers were hiding from something lurking outside. An elderly man named Haroon stepped out to greet him, though his hands trembled slightly as he spoke. "You shouldn't be here after dark," Haroon warned. "This place, it isn't safe. The ghost walks at night." Aidan smiled politely, thinking it was just superstition, but something in Haroon's eyes told a different story. Fear carved from years of living surrounded by terror. Still, Aidan insisted he was staying for his research, and Haroon reluctantly led him to an empty hut on the village edge. Before leaving, Haroon whispered, "Whatever you do, don't respond if someone calls your name in the dark." Night came quickly in Dharai, as though the sky was eager to swallow the village. Aidan set up his equipment, expecting silence, but instead heard faint rustling outside his window, soft footsteps circling his hut. When he peeked through the cracks, no one was there. He turned back toward his bed, only to hear a whisper behind him. "Aidan," the voice was soft, almost pleading. His heart raced as he remembered Haroon's warning. He ignored it, sat on the floor, and covered his ears. The whisper continued, sometimes gentle, sometimes aggressive, until it finally stopped just before dawn. The next day, villagers avoided eye contact. Aidan interviewed a middle-aged woman named Syra, who reluctantly agreed to talk. She explained that many years ago, a young woman named Leah lived in Dharai. Leah was kind, quiet, and newly married, but tragedy struck. Her husband disappeared one night, never to return. Villagers suspected he ran away, but Leah believed something evil took him. She spent nights wandering the forest, searching for him. One evening, the villagers heard her screaming, but by the time they reached her, she was gone. Days later, they found her body floating in the village pond, white dress torn, eyes wide open, face twisted in terror. Since then, her ghost, known as the White Widow, haunted the village, crying for her lost husband and calling out to anyone who wandered alone at night. Aidan found the legend fascinating, but needed proof. Ignoring warnings, he planned to explore the forest after sunset. He carried a flashlight, camera, audio recorder, and a notebook. As darkness fell, he walked along a narrow dirt path leading into the woods. The trees stood tall and twisted, their branches forming shapes like grasping hands. Strange, cold air brushed past him even though it was summer. Then he heard it, soft sobbing deeper inside the forest. His breath froze. He raised his camera and followed the sound. The sobbing grew louder, echoing through the trees. Suddenly, his flashlight flickered, dimmed, then turned off completely. Aidan slapped it repeatedly, but it stayed dead. The sobbing stopped. Silence blanketed the forest. Then came a long, chilling whisper. "Why did you leave me?" It was a woman's voice, filled with grief and anger. Aidan stumbled back, heart pounding. The trees seemed to shift, shadows stretching like living figures. He tried to run back toward the village, but the path behind him had vanished. Panic surged through him. He spun around and saw her. A pale woman in a torn white dress floated between the trees. Her long black hair covered most of her face, but one trembling eye peeked through, sunken, glowing faintly, filled with rage and sorrow. Her fingers were long, almost bone-like, dripping water, as though she had just emerged from a pond. She moved without sound, gliding toward him. Aidan tried to scream, but no voice came out. He dropped his camera and sprinted blindly. Branches cut his arms, thorns tore his clothes, and unseen hands seemed to brush his neck. Behind him, the ghost's voice echoed loudly. "Don't leave me again." He broke through the tree line and collapsed onto the village road, gasping for breath. Villagers rushed out, pulling him away from the forest. Haroon scolded him harshly, shouting that he had disrespected the warning and risked awakening her anger. But Aidan couldn't focus on their words. He kept seeing her face, twisted with pain, longing, and vengeance. That night, the village was restless. Dogs barked nonstop, babies cried, and lanterns flickered inside homes. A thick, unnatural fog rolled toward the village. Doors rattled violently. Aidan stayed inside his hut, clutching the only candle he had. Suddenly, he heard footsteps outside, slow, dragging footsteps. Then a knock on his door. He froze. Another knock, this time louder. Then the voice returned. "Aidan, let me in." Her tone was desperate, like a grieving widow begging for help. He covered his ears, trembling, but the knocking grew more aggressive. The candle extinguished by itself. Cold air filled the hut. Aidan breathed heavily, waiting for something to happen. After a long, painful silence, he heard whispering right behind him. He turned slowly. The White Widow was standing in the corner of the room, her wet dress forming a puddle on the floor. Her face was now fully visible, half decayed, jaw slightly unhinged, mouth trembling as if trying to form words. Aidan backed against the wall. She reached out a shaking hand. "They left me, like they left you." Confusion struck him. "No one left me," Aidan whispered, trembling. But she shook her head violently. "You're alone like me. Come with me, stay with me." Her voice shifted between pleading and commanding. Aidan gathered courage, realizing the ghost wasn't evil by nature. She was broken, trapped, consumed by her loss. He forced himself to speak. "Leia, your husband didn't leave you. Something else took him. You're not alone. You're stuck. But you can rest if you let go." For a moment, her expression softened. Her trembling stopped. The room grew quieter. But then she suddenly screamed, an ear-piercing, soul-tearing scream that shook the entire hut. The walls vibrated, windows cracked, and the ground trembled. Aidan shielded his ears, falling to his knees. The ghost flickered violently like a glitching image, her form tearing between despair and rage. "He left me. He left me. He left me." Villagers ran toward the hut. Haroon burst inside and threw sacred ash towards her. The ghost shrieked, dissolving into a misty cloud that swirled violently before escaping through the window. Aidan collapsed unconscious. When he woke hours later, he told Haroon that the ghost wasn't evil. She was lost and trapped in her anguish. Haroon nodded sadly. "We know, but her pain has grown into a curse." Aidan asked to see the pond where Leia died. At dawn, villagers led him there. The water was unnaturally still, reflecting nothing. Aidan knelt beside it and whispered, "You're not forgotten, Leia. He didn't abandon you. Please let this village live." The pond rippled. A cold breeze brushed Aidan's face. For a moment, he felt a soft presence beside him, a gentle hand on his shoulder. He turned, but no one was there. The villagers gasped softly, sensing something had changed. That night, for the first time in decades, the village slept peacefully. No whispers. No footsteps. No knocking. But Aidan, preparing to leave the next morning, reviewed his camera footage. Most clips were corrupted, but one short recording remained. It was from the forest. In it, the ghost stood among the trees, but just behind her, barely visible, was the faint silhouette of a man, her husband. They stood moments before vanishing into the darkness together. Aidan closed his laptop slowly, realizing she hadn't been calling for him. She had been calling for him because he was the only one who listened. And now, as he left Dharai, the villagers thanked him. But Aidan couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere in the foggy woods, two lost souls had finally found each other again.